No, no, no. Then he panted young, a strong young man, a hero.
Mommy's a real hero.
Tropical Sun flavors of the world to your table.
Leatherback helps you move your money securely from one country to another with ease. With over 20 currencies to choose from, including Indian rupee, naira, Ghanaian cedi, and US dollar, with Leatherback you can move money anytime, anywhere. Simply sign up, verify your identity, and you're ready to add money to your account. Leatherback is licensed in 4 countries, and with full visibility of your cash flow via our dashboard, you're in control. One access, one platform, one world. Download the Leatherback app and let the journey begin.
I am so hungry. This aroma to kill me.
I'll take you, Grandpa.
Whether you're looking for poundo in crayfish stock, all-purpose seasoning, or any other ingredient, Tropical Sun has everything you need.
No, no, no. Then he panted young, a strong young man, a hero.
Mommy's a real hero.
Tropical Sun flavors of the world to your table.
Leatherback helps you move your money securely from one country to another with ease. With over 20 currencies to choose from, including Indian rupee, naira, Ghanaian cedi, and US dollar, with Leatherback you can move money anytime, anywhere. Simply sign up, verify your identity, and you're ready to add money to your account. Leatherback is licensed in 4 countries, and with full visibility of your cash flow via our dashboard, you're in control. One access, one platform, one world. Download the Leatherback app and let the journey begin.
I am so hungry. This aroma to kill me.
I'll take you, Grandpa.
Whether you're looking for poundo in crayfish stock, all-purpose seasoning, or any other ingredient, Tropical Sun has everything you need.
No, no, no. Then he panted young, a strong young man, a hero.
Mommy's a real hero.
Tropical Sun flavors of the world to your table.
Leatherback helps you move your money securely from one country to another with ease. With over 20 currencies to choose from, including Indian rupee, naira, Ghanaian cedi, and US dollar, with Leatherback you can move money anytime, anywhere. Simply sign up, verify your identity, and you're ready to add money to your account. Leatherback is licensed in 4 countries, and with full visibility of your cash flow via our dashboard, you're in control. One access, one platform, one world. Download the Leatherback app and let the journey begin.
Welcome back to the program. Now, if you just tune in, well, you kind of missed a heated conversation or debate, I should say, I had with Solomon. So you can always go back to watch the program, right? You can always go back to watch it. But right now, what we're going to talk about here is very important because all the time I keep saying this, it's important that we tell our own story. Now, the South African Times, a leading media company specializing in regional news and analysis, has entered a groundbreaking commercial partnership with Sky Channel 7, our very own Channel 7. And here to talk more about this partnership is the South African Times CEO, Farai Ian Muvuti. I hope I pronounced your surname correctly.
No, you pronounced correctly. I think the company name.
Company name.
The Southern African.
The Southern African Times. Yes, Southern African Times. Let's get that right. A lot of the times, especially within the media space, our voices are kind of missing when it comes to telling our own story. And I say this because I remember during the Kenyan election, this was last year in August, right? So we're trying to get more news. I had a Kenyan journalist here. I spoke to him, trying to get to people on the ground to get more information. I said, okay, that's fine. We're able to speak to people. So I said, okay, let me just go online, check these so-called credible media houses and see their reportage. And believe you me, in about, let's say about 80 or 90% of these media houses, their reportage was heavily negative. everyone highlighting the post-election violence consistently. Not really looking at the fact that Kenya has actually moved on since then. But you kept, this kept coming up and coming up. And I'm saying, what is going on? We've got to do better, right? So, two questions. First and foremost, let's talk about the partnership and why it's important for especially, media houses like us to have a voice and to come together to collaborate.
Well, Jones, thank you so much for having me on your show. It's always an incredible honor to sit down with someone like you who's quite well esteemed in the fraternity of media, especially within diaspora reporting. But I think to your question, why it is fundamental for such collaborations to occur is to reimagine the very issues you're discussing. I think, Julius Nyerere may have said it better, where he said, it is stronger for the weak to stand together because we are taller, we are stronger, we have a greater reach. And some of the problems that we have in Africa, they stem back as far, you're talking about, over 100 years of negative perceptions. And there's a gap that we must close. And there are a few media houses that are doing the responsible work of providing fundamentally nuance. So what you pointed to, for example, with the Kenyan elections that we covered quite vastly as the Southern African Times, we did notice that there was a lot of negative reportage because a lot of publications may have been agenda-driven. We don't want to be agenda-driven. We just want the data. We want the facts. We want the detail in the discussion. So for me, I think it's a question of enhancing perspective, a question of enhancing nuance. You cannot be led by Reuters Thompson because Reuters Thompson does not have a context of your culture, does not have a context of your history, does not understand the intrinsic details of the tribal divisions that may occur that may lead to the multiple disturbances and differences that may occur with and the challenges that we may see in an election. We must be able to elucidate and further illuminate some of these aspects in great detail. And in order to do that, there has to be a wide range of coverage. And I think what this partnership does is it enables us to feed off each other. They feed, Channel 7 will be able to feed off our, AAA sort of upper middle income audience, and we will be able to equally feed into its, a potentially 5 million viewership, which comes directly to the UK market and equally has a stake in the Ghanaian market as well as the US. And I think that particular collaboration facilitates a strong base for us to begin to construct responsible reporting rather than the cliche that is African but is a reinvention of CNN and so forth.
Okay, now it's interesting you say that because this is not the first collaboration, right? This is not the first. This happened before. We've seen so many times where credible African publications have done their best to try and bring out the truth, as it were. But somehow the voices is always submerged and overpowered by the Western media. Us here in the diaspora would like to get in touch and get the real source. Thanks to social media and technology now, there's vast publications around that you can feed to. But again, my question is, how can we collaboratively come together to be able to penetrate so that when something happens, this is where you go, you know that this source is credible?
I think you can do the right thing at the wrong time, and it's still the wrong thing. So, for example, if you look at a company such as YouTube, for example, there was a company prior to that actually had the same concept, but Adobe didn't exist. So they were not able to do, so they had the right concept, but just at the wrong time. I think for us, our partnership comes in quite well because of the timing. There is a huge interest globally to finding the fundamental nuances around the issues around Africa. There is a great investment interest. There is, in the history, in the last 20 years, you have not seen a Chinese senior delegation going to Africa. A month after, U.S. delegations following out, one of almost falling.
Yes.
Again, 3 U.S. delegations, and then on top of that you get France, and then you get the United Kingdom, and then you equally get Germany. We have not seen. The last time we saw such an over-concentration on Africa was possibly the 2014s, which then slumped down as a consequence of the inflationary issues that were happening globally. And so because of this new excitement about Africa, and not just being seen as a destination for aid, but being seen as a destination for investment. There is a critical audience that may be isolated, that we have an opportunity to speak to directly, which I think you guys have done well, is the diaspora. The African diaspora, which includes, by the way, your Afro-Caribbean community, as well as your Black Americans. That particular audience collectively, with the continental Africans, have been contributing by virtue of remittance back to Africa, more than we get in developmental aid, more than we get in terms of foreign direct investment. It's your biggest player now. So domestic investment is the next wave. So why it's important to partner up? There is an underbelly here that a lot of people and a lot of media houses are not focusing on. The Africa Development, the Africa Free Trade, grants us an opportunity here to leverage that particular audience. Why? We have to create opportunities that speaks directly to the opportunities that are in Africa. And that particular Africa Free Trade agreement enables to create a constituency for the diaspora to create a direct investment and equally direct returns at least an average of 49%, any more than they'll get anywhere else in their domestic markets. So there are multiple opportunities. So like I said again, to put it succinctly, our partnership is critical because we're doing the right thing at the right time.
Now, it's interesting you brought up the AFCFTA, and I had the opportunity to speak to His Excellency Kelemene, and I was surprised and a bit dumbfounded, to be honest with you, that this fantastic initiative is happening on the continent, but many Africans were unaware about this initiative. Many have dreamed about this for centuries. I mean, we had it. We began this process started.
Who do you expect to tell them?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's our job to tell
we
them.
can't wait for the BBC, in as much as
Not necessarily the BBC, but I'm saying anyone.
we can't wait for it. We have to tell our own story, and we must own the story. The BBC must seek its sources from experts within the media fraternity in Africa.
The reason why I'm saying this because I was coming to one thing. At the end of the day, we see a lot of positivity coming out from African media houses in particular, but it's always the funding that seems to cripple media houses. So if we're coming together trying to push this and make it happen. How do we make sure, right? If somebody's watching us, not going, oh, here we go again. This might not work. How do we make sure, we're able to sustain these media houses, and B, to be self-reliant on what it is that we're actually trying to achieve without any interferences? If you get where I'm going with this.
I think the fundamental aspects that one should always look at when it comes to media funding in particular, we must replace this need to be constantly supported. We must create our own internal solutions. As the Southern African Times, we've figured out a way to disrupt the market that enables us to not just become a media house, but to equally become a platform that provides services to sustain ourselves. So in the next 2 years, we confidently think that we'll not need advertising at all.
Okay.
Right? Because of the quality of services we are providing in a multitude of ways, we will be able to self-sustain. So media houses have to think differently. We must disrupt the market, we must think more creatively, and we must look at the advantage we have. We are serving a continent that is really underserved, that has a huge perception gap, and there's a lot of work to do in that regard. And I think because of the work that needs to be done, be it you're looking at the labor market, or you're looking at the stock market, or you're looking at the investment trajectory, or you're looking at analytics of trade, there's a lot of work to be done. The partnerships that can be cemented can equally create good opportunities commercially. So it's about thinking more strategically rather than thinking in a one-dimension way in which we are trying to outsource our funding from the very people that we complain are taking and shaping and reshaping the narrative. If you want to shape the narrative, you must contain how you fund. And I think it's important to think.
Somebody watching us or listening to us will be asking the Southern African Times, what is a publication, or is it just news? What kind of content did you produce?
Well, I think to put it succinctly, we think that there is a lot of space in terms of African media around the politicization of messaging points, the geopolitical nexus points, and so forth. I think there's a lot of content around that. We wanted to focus primarily on, to put it succinctly, become the Bloomberg of Africa, become the Financial Times of Africa. So we chose the name the Southern African Times because we equally wanted to be arrogant in challenging the hegemony. I don't see anyone questioning the need to have a BBC Africa reporting on Nigeria, nor do I see anyone ever asking the question around why the New York Times covers African content. So we wanted to be arrogant about it, and we called it the Southern African Times to demonstrate that as Africans, we have hegemonic power and potential to dominate narratives irrespective of the location. So we are continental, we equally as global, and we intended to compete with FT and Bloomberg for market share in Africa.
No, it's interesting you said, and I take your point on that. And the reason why I asked that is because any individual hears the Southern African Times automatically thinks that it's all about South.
Yeah.
But it is not.
No.
And you also have a YouTube platform as well.
Indeed, yes. We started the YouTube platform 2 years ago. We started interviewing policymakers and so forth. I think we had the foreign minister of Zimbabwe, we had the financial minister, we had the spokesperson of South Africa, and we had, Zozi Bantu, we had a few business players. And we thought this could be something that could be quite transformative in the sense that we're sharing perhaps the good story about investment in Africa that is being led by the domestic market itself, and equally portraying the diaspora and champions that are doing quite well in spreading the good gospel of Africa as an investment destination. So we thought it good to spread our wings a bit and get this message out a bit more and much more pronounced, and hence why this partnership particularly would work. But fundamentally, the issue was I am a father to a black daughter, and when it comes to the messaging that she's saturated by, she fails to see herself. And so for me, the clear inspiration was to ensure that there is an image she grows up around, seeing a reflection of herself intellectually, business-wise, and not seeing just, your negative reportage about, your content, particularly her seeing that there is a balance, there is a nuance, there is perspective. There are evil people everywhere, but they're not inherently African.
Interesting. And lastly, because again, I think it's important we talk about this, the business model. I know you've touched upon it because a lot of the times we've had many media houses here, and I don't know, maybe if it's been the same experience on your end. Some have argued that the so-called, these made-up borders, which has more or less kept the continent apart, is what we're seeing. And this is why the lack of cohesiveness has lacked a lot of the times when it comes to telling our own story, where people are just sticking to their own, and the lack of collaboration. With this partnership with Channel 7, so are we going to see content from the South African Times on Channel 7?
Yes, that's the idea. The idea when we spoke down with your CEO, when we sat down with your CEO, the idea was to really create a multi-faceted content range that looks at you guys covering the West as you continue to do, as well as the East side of Africa and so forth, and us providing the perspective from the South, right? So the idea is to create content around the South side so that we are collaborative. And I think what's good about this is that it echoes the sentiments of Nkrumah, but in a much more technologically advanced way. Media houses, this is our first media partnership, to be fair. We've tended to avoid them. But I think the beauty in this partnership is that we are precise about what we are trying to do. We are clear about the strategy of how we raise funds for it. And we're equally clear about how this collaboration will benefit both sides. And so we had the hard conversation first, which is what a lot of entities tend to not do. We've had the hard discussions first, hard negotiations. Now we're saying, let's get to work.
Now, let me ask you this, right? Now, my time at uni, one of my lecturers said to me, I have to be honest with you guys, okay? Any company, business company, any media houses you work for, everyone has their own peg, okay? They have their own agenda. So you tend to realize that when a particular news outlet publishes something. So let's say, for instance, the Daily Mail, and then you have the Daily Mail and the Daily Mirror. Two completely different, right? Is this the same issue with the Southern African Times? There is an angle to which your publication focuses on.
I suppose if humanizing the African business investment environment is an agenda, it's an agenda we will do tenfold. I think it's important for us to move away from being seen as the object of a story, but become the subject. I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, we were partnered with what they called the Financial Indaba, which ran at the London Stock Exchange, the Zimbabwe Capital Markets. And one of the narratives, we were covering the media there, one of the narratives that was constant there with the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, and I had this conversation with the CEO of the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, who is Justin Mbonga, there was a perception gap. People didn't realize the opportunity. And it's the same thing if you look at the Botswana stock market. It's the same thing if you look at Nigeria investment. People were not celebrating the fact that there's a new refinery, one of the largest in the world, right? And so it's about, we have a lot of work to do as media houses to close that perception gap, to draw in FDI, but greatly to invite even the diaspora. We have a twofold ministry in as far as we are concerned when it comes to the work we do. We don't just want FDI inflow coming from the United States and the traditional partners we've had in the West and the East and so forth. We want the diaspora, a critical component. I think if Africa is going to rise economically, it should be led by domestic investment. That domestic investment is the diasporian. But the diasporian is ignorant of the opportunities, and I think it is our job to work very hard and diligently in a smart manner to invite them to the table and say, do no longer should you wait for your economic rights from elsewhere. Yes, we got civil rights. Now it's time for silver rights.
On that note, Farai Ian Muvuti, CEO of the Southern African Times, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me
on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now let's move on. We're switching paces a bit now. Young players in this country, across the entire country here in England, from the ages of 12 to 23, had the opportunity to play at Southend Football Club and in front of many fans, including scouts. Let's take a quick listen to this.
That's the line up, please. Line up.
Yes, guys, it's your boy Ricky from Scouts Connect, and it is the big day, stage 3, the final round. We are here at the home of Southend United. I'm going to be talking to the players, I'm going to be talking to the coaches, I'm going to be talking to the scouts. Stay tuned. One of the coaches and as one of the co-founders of Scouts Connect, what are you hoping to see today from the guys playing?
Energy, confidence, embrace the stage, have fun, be creative. Yeah, just enjoy the day and just show us what you're about, basically, as a footballer.
So, as a scout, which is the number one thing that you're looking out for?
Well, you've got to have confidence in your own ability. So if you're confident and you think you're good, get down. The thing is as well, it's work rate. You've got to work. You've got to put the time and the effort in. I know that's two, but yeah, I think they're fundamental because they work in tandem. That's the thing with it. So confident and work rate. They've got, because if don't put the work in, you're not going to be. You won't be scouted. That's the main thing.
Process today. There's going to be some kids here that are probably a little bit nervous. If there was a kid that came up to you today and said, Coach, I need one bit of advice, what would you tell them?
I mean, the advice would be simple, I wouldn't want to complicate it with them. I'll just tell them to enjoy the day and also to play with their strength and to literally just have fun, because the most important thing they're here. It's a big stadium, but obviously don't get overwhelmed by the spectators that will come, and just keep it simple, enjoy the day, and just have fun.
So what's going through your mind right now? Are you zoning out or are you preparing? Where are you right now mentally?
Mentally, I'm just more or less relaxed. You know, I feel like that's the best approach I can actually take towards the game coming up. Obviously, I don't want to be too tense. I don't want to be thinking about what could go wrong. It's just more or less relaxed. And obviously, when the game comes, just express myself in the best way I can.
Feel like it was really successful. Everything I planned out and if everything I've worked for, I feel like I've achieved it. But as you know, there's more to go. We still have to keep striving.
See, he's speaking like a wise man. He ain't even had media training yet. So, do you think you could have given us more, or do you think you left it all on the pitch?
I feel like I could have given you more, as I didn't play my most strongest position. I felt like I have a lot to learn because I played left back. I feel like I have a lot to learn, dropping in to make sure our players offside, to keep them onside. All the things. I feel like I have to be more educated on that position, as it's good to be versatile. Yeah.
Very impressive skills there by the young man, and he sounded really, really good. I think he has received some sort of media training. Now, joining us here to talk about this from Scouts Connect is Nana and Maju. You can tell by his Nana's muscles here, a very fit man.
Stop that! Stop that! Stop that!
A very
Thank
fit
you.
man. But it's a pleasure to have you here on this show. So I guess I'll come to you first about Scouts Connect, the brains behind it and the objective of this initiative.
Yeah. So basically, Scouts Connect is a platform to get scouted. Yes. We wanted to create a platform that is most efficient for parents and players to be seen by scouts, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Maju, if I come to you, what is the age group? Because initially I said under 12s to under 23s, right? And in footballing terms, somebody, it's been said that if you haven't made it at the age of, I think possibly maybe 20, 22, then it's very difficult to get in.
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with you, but what we have with Scouts Connect is that we give players the opportunities to also have opportunities outside of England, because we know that with England, the opportunity is very limited. But with Scouts Connect, we're about giving players the opportunities also abroad to give them further chance to actually sign in professional contracts.
Well, so I mean, talk us through it. I know that they go through paces, and then the best ones play a match in the final, and then what happens?
Yeah. So basically, there's three sides to Scouts Connect. So there's one where a player will just go and register a yearly subscription, and then basically have access to showcases. Yeah, where Scouts Connect has those showcases. But then also the second part as well, yeah, in terms of players who've been released as well from academies, yeah, where basically they're a bit depressed and down, parents are a bit, hey, what's going on? We're able to also point them in the right direction of actually getting opportunity for private in-house showcases as well.
Now, that point is very important, isn't it? When you're released at the age, I think at the age of 18, 19, right? Mm-hmm. And you've been in the youth team setup. And when you get into the youth team setup, you think automatically you're going to make it. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the stats is 1 out of 6, if I'm not mistaken, 1 out of 3 actually go on to progress. And I just want you to highlight the mental aspect of being released from a professional football club.
Yeah, it's harsh because obviously, in terms of pre-academy starts from age 9 all the way up in 16 scholars year. And then obviously from scholars year 18, you get a pro. Some are lucky to have 2 years, some 1 year. But basically every year you're fighting for your life. But football is about opinions, basically, in that sense. And obviously what one club don't like, the next club will like. So Scouts Connected just gives that opportunity and give the players that platform to be seen again So let's say Chelsea are not interested, Arsenal will be interested. Do you know what I mean? In that sense, and also you've got lower teams. I don't mean to be rude, in that sense, yeah, but they're always looking for talent as well. So I think that it's a win-win situation for everyone.
And talk about the event that took place, I think, last week it was, or 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I'm guessing some players were scouted, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the event was very successful. I mean, overall, we had about, I would say, 200 to 300 fans that came to support the players. And out of the players that were performing, 6 actually got scouted from professional clubs. So that alone is impressive.
All right. Now to our to viewers watching us on Sky, right? We bring the show to it, and however it continues on social media. So to our viewers watching us on Sky, thank you very much for staying tuned. We'll be back here, same place, same time next week. So do make sure to join us. Until then, it's goodbye from us. But for Facebook, social media, we continue the conversation. So let's continue with this, but I just wanted to.
So basically, I have Yes, but obviously, my son is very versatile. But the late development, like physical work. Yes, yes. Anyway, so weeks, weeks, yeah, to try different positions, which it didn't allow him to do, basically, but it's probably stand down. So, back and forth. But basically, yeah, out of that. And obviously, we went into grassroots in like, so, then, yeah, um, any teams that come for my son, let's wait until the end of the season and then someone talking about it. We do have in-house showcases where parents can come. Basically, um, but any parent who starts with this,
Interesting, what Nana is saying, Maji, because at that age, that's all. You tend to realize is that ages have multiple players. So you're
well ahead of time.
No. Do you think that that's
us, and like we'll obviously develop him,
Yeah.
which is actually a lie, you know, because in the day, like when they go to school, they meet next to them. They have a reason. So for parents, they need to see it's a neutral driven.
like right now? I experience this in a lot of my. Realize that if you try something, you make a mistake, just because they're gonna.
Like you just said, a lot of parents are actually naive in terms of actually.
Now, finally, before we sign off, where can people locate you guys?
But in the future, to be seen by a professional club.
No.